It's time for Measure Twice.
Welcome to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential. And you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. We are brought to you by, in part, Leatherman Supply. Everything, windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger right next to C. Kramer Interiors and Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. Well, there's been some weather lately in the southern parts of this country, some terrible stuff, but this is going to sound crazy, but there are some people probably in a situation where they can rebuild, and there's probably some unfortunate situations where they, it's real trouble. And I don't mean to put that on a shelf, right? If you can help people that are down there, you should, if you can. But what I was thinking about is there are some people that they've had great turmoil, but at the other end of this, there's some restoration that's going to happen. Like they're going to go back and rebuild. Like the American way. You get knocked down, you get up and you start
over again.
Yeah, you get up the next day and you start going. So that led me to believe like there's probably a lot of questions about how on earth if your home had a foot of water in it, like what goes on there? Like what's the first? Like how do you even comprehend fixing that? And is it fixable?
Yes.
So it is fixable.
It is.
And
as long as the structure is secure, yes.
That was the first question.
Yeah, the structure.
Right. How do you know if a structure is okay? I'm looking right at Joel.
Oh, you can typically tell just by, because we're talking about hurricanes.
Right.
We've seen pictures of, like some places they're just completely gone. Like,
well, that's
completely wiped.
That's a no-brainer. That's the starting over.
You're starting all over.
You're gonna get a new building out of that.
But there'll be places that, the whatever it was that would have wiped that out, whether it's all the water or if it's the wind or whatever, where it can be shifted on the foundation.
Right.
If that's the case, you're in trouble. But you can tell by getting under it and looking at it.
You can. And if there was like erosion, I guess, I didn't mean to cut you off, Chris. Were you going to say something?
No, nope, you're good.
Obviously if it's completely gone, right? If the foundation shifts, is that pretty evident?
Yeah, typically.
Like you can pretty much see that something's going on. And
if it gets moved that hard, you'll see it.
Right. And it happens. Like that is one of the common problems. You have a house, you walk up to it, it looks perfect, but the foundation's corrupted because of flood, and then I don't know what you do, I guess you could lift the house up and put a new one down there, right?
You could.
In some cases, I guess not every case, but that's kind of like the broad, like on the nose type of thing. Not that it's obvious, but it's pretty, that's a pretty obvious one. But if you had, let's say, 2 feet of water in your house, the first thing I thought of is like, if the water goes above like electric, what does that cause? You know how like every electric socket is about 2 feet off I don't know what the code is, but there's a code because it has to be. They're all based
18 to 24 inches, I think. Yeah.
If water's above 18 inches, and all of your electrical outlets were flooded, what does that cause? Is that an extra problem, or will it dry out and be fine?
I guess it depends. It can ruin fixtures for sure, but yeah, a lot of times that stuff will dry out.
But it's interesting because if you have 2 feet of water in your house, Water's not the first thing I think about. It's after it recedes, all the mud and the sand that you have to scrape out.
It's left over. Yeah,
That's left
stuff's
over.
in the
I
water.
mean, because you
Yeah.
were at a place, a year ago that happened.
Yeah, 8 feet of water.
And then it just deposits massive amounts of dirt and mud. And
8 feet.
8 feet of water in their home. They were in Fort Myers Beach.
Is this ceiling 8 feet? Probably.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's not funny. I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm just like, that's
They had a foot of sand.
because it just flowed into the house, right?
Right. So after the water receded, the first thing they had to do was get the sand out.
Shovel the sand.
See, now that will ruin stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That will ruin stuff.
Get into your electric and everything. And so everything from ground to 8 feet was removed.
Because it was likely sand.
Sand, water damage, your cabinetry absorbs the water, and
Right, you're not getting that
everything
out,
was everything.
And then it's so hard to fathom. Like, really, it is hard to fathom 8 feet. Were these people okay? I mean, did they get out?
They were fine. They live here. Emotionally, they weren't, but
Wow.
with the devastation.
So they weren't there when the 8 feet
No.
was there. Gotcha. Because that would be.
Oh, well, yeah.
Terrible.
No.
I mean, I know firsthand from living on coastal America that when the hurricane is coming, or a nor'easter where I'm from, were more dangerous because it's a fresh storm.
Right.
A nor'easter from up there, basically a hurricane. But you can watch the tide come in, and I remember being on a second floor apartment, going, I don't know, and having the fire department drive down the road just saying, you need to get out now. Now is when you can get out. And making the dumb decision of not leaving. Dumb. Watching a Mustang just get covered with water. Just like, whoop, and it was gone. And then that Mustang was not worth anything anymore.
Not anymore.
It was a giant piece of scrap metal. Like, God, being there is one thing. But coming back, so they come back and visit this house, so the water's not in it anymore. But it's evident where the water was.
There's still water in it.
I mean, it's not like 8 feet of
Yeah,
water.
right.
So you go into this place, and you can see the water line, I'm assuming, because that's how you probably can tell. Does drywall just suck up water? Though?
Oh, yeah. It's like a
it'll-
sponge.
Yeah, so your water could be 2 feet, but the drywall might be
Oh,
wet
yeah. I mean,
right?
But you also have to understand that everything in the house was now out of the house because of the current there was a strong current. So front door gone. All the furniture in the house was in the pool.
oh, my word.
So, I mean, it came in with a force and it just literally pushed everything
Wow.
out. So,
Wow. Well, first things first there is to get dirt out.
to get the dirt
And
out.
I don't think that would be too different than, like, that's probably super common. Like, that's probably the most common byproduct is debris.
You're right.
That, nature.
I just can't imagine the time it would take to get that out.
Yeah. You can't get a bulldozer in there.
No.
You're just using shovels,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then where do you put that dirt or sand? You're not going to just put it outside your front door,
Yeah.
right? It's got to go someplace.
They probably just put it in the truck and hauled it away.
Yeah. And then that sand is not probably clean sand because
No.
God knows what kind of sewage or
Stuff.
septic situations are going on there. That's really just terrible. And get it. People, listeners are probably like, yeah, we get it. It's terrible. I mean, like, it is terrible. But you have to go talk through this point to get to the point of how do you fix it? What are the problems when you have water damage like that? The problems are, like Chris said, debris.
Then the first thing they have to do is cut the drywall. They have to take everything out up to the 8 foot. Then there's the mold issue.
But to reiterate, before we even get to the mold, the drywall is a sponge. So
Right.
if the water was 2 feet, you're probably
Gotta go
cutting several feet above
Right.
that, right?
Yes,
Because
you
it's
are.
sucking
Yeah.
it up
Yeah.
at some point, right? And then you have to get above that.
Yeah.
so often you see the pictures. You could probably Google it where you walk in and it's like a line of demarcation where they determine this is the last part of. So you'll go in and there'll be 3 feet of drywall from the ceiling down.
Yeah.
I mean, in that case, all
of it.
Yeah, 8 feet. That's all the drywall and the floor or in the ceiling.
The ceiling was nope. They kept
Ceiling
the
was
ceiling.
okay. It went up to the ceiling. But
They had their ceilings were 2 stories. They had very high ceilings.
Good. So then that's because
So that's the only you walk in. It's 2x4 and then drywall.
it's like a skeleton, right?
Underneath.
Okay. So, well, we don't have much time left, but I think we should go into, okay, so you remove the drywall now,
Yep.
right? You determine that there's sand in the electric fixtures or dirt or debris. Because even if we're not in Florida, it's very similar damage here.
Oh, it wouldn't be any different.
Yeah, it would just be mud, not sand.
Right.
That's still dirt coming in. When we come back, though, let's find out, all right, what do you do with the 2x4s? This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Customer Modeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. That's where your ears are right now. They're pointed right at that. Yep, Chris.
Oh, no, but I talk into that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Chris held his ear up to the microphone because we're Chris's muse. We are brought to you in part by Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops with the showroom now open in Granger, right next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts in hardwood floors. You can visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. And you should. The miracle workers of the Midwest they put new floors in, but restoration, you want to be impressed. Look at their restoration before and after jobs. Jeez. Let's see. We were talking about kind of the tragedy of you get flooded, and Chris was showing us some pictures offline of his friend's house that, it was basically a straight line. Somebody took a box cutter and cut the sheetrock, took it down to the studs. But that leaves me this question. Why are the studs still okay? Like, studs can handle a flood? Mm-hmm. Just not a long period it's not like standing water. A flood is different, right? Because it comes in
and goes out,
and then it goes out.
But they absorb water.
Yeah, and then you just got to let them. They have to let them dry out because they're kiln dried, right? They studs sometimes.
I mean, anything that's dry is, whether it was kiln dried or not, it's going to be fine.
And then you just have to make sure you let it dry.
Mm-hmm.
You had mentioned the mold off air. You had they sprayed something on it. I know you don't know the chemical. I'm not asking you what's the chemical makeup?
Encapsulate it. Yeah,
that's what I was asking.
You'll pull the insulation because that's gone.
Right.
I kind of wonder what happens if you have spray foam insulation. I mean, that's a newer thing, so.
Oh yeah.
I would assume that could dry out.
Yeah, because that's like styrofoam essentially. It's foam. It's not styrofoam.
Yeah.
You would think something would happen to it.
I wonder if it's even water resistant.
I don't believe it's actually water resistant, but I don't know.
I don't either.
I would be interested in.
Yeah, that's something.
Typically, when you think about it, it's either a blown-in insulation or bat insulation in your bays, and that stuff is it's ruined once it gets wet. So that's pulled out. Get fans on it, dry it out, and then typically for the mold, because it's the spores that will make you sick, and if you just spray it with bleach or something, it kills it, and that makes the spores. So they'll paint it with something. I'm not sure what it is to encapsulate it.
Yeah.
Well, you run into that even in a bathroom remodel.
Oh yeah.
Do you?
Oh yeah. You run into mold.
Wet 2x4s, wet insulation.
So what do you do then? Your same situation as if it was a flood, right? I mean, basically.
Yeah.
Well,
it's also kind of like a jellyfish sting. If you pee on it, it takes care of it.
Wow. Chris is going to experience neck pain tomorrow because of the way his head snapped. That was like, wow. Okay, well, that came out of nowhere,
Yes.
Joel, and I'm pretty sure you don't actually do that.
No, absolutely not.
Wow.
Yeah, no, you deal with it in the same general way.
So do you...
A lot of the time work, especially with subfloor backer material, that's where we see it the most. You'll see it some on studs or, floor joists. And in that case, you have to have it.
It's like an amputation type thing, right? You're taking it out.
A lot of that, we're just taking it out then.
So you give it the screwdriver test where, your screwdriver gets buried in it. That's probably not.
Well, yeah, I'll do that for sure. But
Yeah.
like with the mold, mildew, stuff like that, yeah, you want to encapsulate it to make sure that
Now,
it's killed and it's not spreading. And
I'm told that bleach is great for what's in front of you, but if there's any mold left, bleach actually can make an environment so that the mold can grow
maybe.
because it cleans it.
Oh, yeah.
And so you have to look at you probably want, and I'm just saying, you probably want to look at, if you're listening to this and you have like a mold thing, you want to look for specific products that are meant to control and kill mold, not necessarily clean the surface. I know that sounds crazy.
Yeah.
No, makes sense.
But if you bleach an area, you've killed the mold. But if there's spores in the air, the mold's coming back.
Yeah, you just gave it a nice clean
You just
surface.
gave it a great head start, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying not to bleach. I'm saying that you have to encapsulate the area. You have to treat the area so that it's unfriendly to mold.
Right.
And then when you use those products and growing up in a place where it was just wetness was in the air, right? You kind of get familiar with like, oh, okay, you routinely spray places with this type of product because it's just better to stave it off, But yeah, do that.
The worst I ever saw, we were doing a bathroom remodel on a place in the woods, and so it didn't get much sunlight,
right.
and it was on a crawl space that wasn't insulated properly.
Wow, this is like the trifecta
Oh,
of
wow.
growing
Yeah.
mold. It's like a lab.
So we started pulling stuff, and we're like, man, you could smell it, but it wasn't in the walls. We really couldn't.
Wow.
So we went underneath, and it was just like, have you ever seen white mold? Like, it was like stringy and like, it looked like a cave. I mean, it was
Wow.
unreal. I was like, how are you guys not sick?
Well,
It
they
was-
grew an immunity to it.
No, white mold's really dangerous.
No, I don't know. I was just saying maybe.
So
Yeah, I don't even like thinking
ended
about
up
that.
having to have that remediated because there's no way. Somebody has to come in
Yeah, somebody in a
and they're
suit.
putting on like a whole hazmat.
Yeah,
suit.
somebody has to come in a suit.
You have to move out of the house. I mean, it was just.
Chris's face, his eyes are like.
Oh, it was
Is
disgusting.
that like your nightmare, Chris? I feel like we're just talking about your nightmare.
I've got this mental image, and it's like,
Scary.
nope.
It was like if you picture being in a cave,
Stalactites.
stalactites,
Wow.
a bunch of
Is
spider
white
web.
mold worse than black mold?
Oh yeah.
Really?
And I think that's probably the only time I've ever really run into it.
So how do you fix that so that it doesn't come back? How do you fix that crawl space so that it doesn't?
Well, they didn't have proper ventilation in it.
Okay.
Was part of it, and then it wasn't. So if it's not getting proper cross ventilation and not getting the proper ventilation, moisture's going to build up, especially in our climate.
Right.
It's just you're asking for trouble there.
Yeah, I
so
think-
ventilation was a big deal, making sure that water couldn't just get in.
Right. Because there's enough organic material on a piece of wood for mold to live.
Oh yeah.
Like and be okay. I think when you have to really take seriously ventilation because
It's critical.
it's kind of crazy to think about, but that movement of air is super important to keep mold away. And I think I know we're just famous for going on tangents here, but think about like your soffits. Not many people, I think, understand that needs to be if if you look at your soffit, there's a million holes in it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, that goes directly to my attic. And it's like, yeah. Yeah, because you can't have it stagnant in there, right?
Yep.
Is that the proper term? I don't know.
Yep.
But
There has to be air movement.
so you should probably investigate your attics every now and then to make sure that your insulation is not shifted and sealed your attic off.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right? Am I using the proper term there? Because you might, those vents along the top might not be enough.
A lot of blown-in insulation. If it's not done properly with somebody that knew what they were doing with like the air chutes that go up in the bays, and then they'll stuff bat insulation in there just to block that area off. If that's not done appropriately, wind will blow through there, move it around, and it can block places.
So when you say
What
air
happens
chutes-
more often, though, is it will get pushed more towards the middle, and then like the edges of your house won't have insulation. Well, that will cause mold too, because now you have a bunch of heat transferring into the attic in the cold, and then that condenses on the ceiling and then on your roof rafters.
Interesting.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I hadn't even thought of that.
I didn't know.
And we're not fear mongering here. This is just reality.
Yeah.
Because and it's been windy recently, and your soffits will let wind in.
Yeah.
And it can blow basically, let me just restate, you're blowing the blown in insulation to the center.
It can if it's not done if it wasn't done appropriately.
And what does it look like when it's done appropriately?
Well, so, those styrofoam chutes have you seen those that go into the roof bay?
Yes.
They look like an eggshell or like an egg carton material.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
About 4
Yeah.
foot long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Typically like 16-ish inches wide.
Right.
You put that up in each bay down to the soffit, and then underneath that, bat insulation is tucked in there so that it protects the rest of the insulation. So that air is actually supposed to be diverted and flow through those.
Huh. Okay. Well, that is definitely something you might want to look into if you're listening. When we come back, we'll talk about designing from the ground up here now that we're all scared. This is Measure Twice. Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Joel Graber from Graber Custom Remodeling and Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential. And you're listening to us on Michiana's News Talk 95.3 MNC. Thank you, sponsors, especially Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with a showroom now open in Granger next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You could visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. Chris, off air, you were mentioning in bathrooms, code.
In houses, the code now is that there's a fan running 24/7.
And it's probably not like a powerful fan.
No.
It's just like keeping air moving.
Mm-hmm.
That's not like we're not talking about like a ceiling vent. We're talking like something in the HVAC system.
I don't know. I thought it was a ceiling vent, like your bath vents. Because I know that a couple years ago we worked on a house and they had the fan in the bathroom that was running 24/7. They said it was code now they had to have the air moving because houses are so tightly sealed now.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
There's got to be some sort of air exchange.
Yes.
The air exchange is what, yeah.
But if it's about, I don't like to have one going 24/7.
Yep.
For what we're talking about,
Indiana Code 402. It's the. I'm looking it up.
but they have to have a place where air can come in. Then,
Yeah, it's
so that's why I was
it's a heat. It's not heat. It's an air exchange
system.
System. Yep.
Is it hooked up to the HVAC or is because I thought this
I
one
would
was
think
it would almost have to be because if it's just a bath fan,
you wouldn't get the
you
air
wouldn't get
exchange.
the air exchange
You'd just be emptying all the air out.
out of your house. Right.
Yeah, you would just everybody be
creating
very
a vacuum.
lethargic in
Because I
there.
was on an electrical walkthrough yesterday, and they spent time talking about where they were going to put this
Right.
air exchange,
Yeah.
and why they needed it, and they were explaining it to the homeowner. But
Yeah, you just need you need a form of air exchange. So if you don't have
Right.
if you don't have the ability to create a natural air exchange, you need to have a vent. You need to have a fan,
Right.
and it's determined by your inspector.
yeah, just buy an old house.
Yep.
But you should
Plenty of air exchange
It's from everywhere. It's from everywhere. Literally.
everywhere. Windows, walls, doors. It doesn't matter.
It's just a big tent.
yeah. I can dry my hair by the door.
Chris, jeez, that was the honestly though, if you find that when you're done taking a shower, you go back in several hours later and it's still wet in there,
Oh,
you
that's a
probably
problem.
should leave your fan on or open a window.
And we were talking off air. They have vents that have a moisture switch now, so you can leave it on, and it will vent until I think it's called the humidity switch, until the humidity goes below a certain level in the room,
Right.
which takes eliminates that, because you don't want to leave that on all night or all day, you know.
Right. For no reason.
Right. But you leave the switch on and it turns itself off. Then.
So my grandmother, my aunts, they had a humidity switch, and I kid you not, they would just the wash rag from the shower, they would leave it hung up, and if it didn't dry, they would leave a window open. If it dried, they wouldn't. That was their. But it's kind of
genius.
the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And you think about it,
That's funny.
that's funny. And you would go in there, and there it was, and Grandma would go in there, and if it was dry, she would shut the window.
That's like when I was growing up, the grandparent, they would put a pan of water over the register.
Grew up the same way, unless they had. My one grandmom had the hot water
Because it would
heater.
get so dry.
Yeah.
She
That was
had-
their humidifier.
Yeah.
Yeah, my
I
grandmom.
still love that.
My one grandmom, we had that. My other grandmom didn't worry about that because she had a boiler. You know, it was
Yep,
like hot water.
didn't need it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It was it was humid enough in that
Yeah.
that place. They kept it nice and toasty. I'm still warm from that. But it's funny how the little old wives' tales or home remedies are based in fact.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right? If
Oh,
your
yeah.
wash rag can dry in a few hours in your bathroom, you probably don't have to worry about leaving the fan on all the
Right.
time. If you go in there and everything is wet still, you know, basically here in Indiana, it's summer, winter.
Right.
Right.
In the winter, everything dries like immediately.
Right.
In the summer, it does
Not so
not
much.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
But you don't want to, opening a window is not going to help you.
no, but I think it gets the air moving is what really like to keep airflow. You know, I don't know. Grandma Nellie would open the window, which was a little awkward because, you know, it's the bathroom. And the outside's right there. It was really funny, but whatever. We started by talking about restoring things. Once you started the process of restoring things, you know, the opportunity exists now, like where you can kind of change things, right?
Right.
You know, like you can,
Start all over.
yeah. And as a designer, you know, you can see through that, you know, like you might have some experience with people who had damage and then they redo things. I mean, in the years that you've been in
Differently.
business. Yeah. Do you find that people, in my mind, there's like one of two people that want to put it back exactly the way it was, like it never happened. And then there's people that are like, all right, well, let's just,
The Florida people wanted to put it back the way it was, and with some modifications,
right.
but mainly they wanted it back the way it was, because that's why they bought the house, because they liked the way it was.
Right. Especially like if the house looked a little newer too. It didn't look like an ancient house.
It wasn't. It was built in the 50s,
Oh, really?
and they added on to.
Right.
But then I've worked with clients who've had other issues here locally with plumbing issues that caused a flood in the house, and they had to, and they were not home, so
Oh, it's just,
they had to rebuild their home, and they changed it.
Because it's the opportunity.
And now it's the opportunity to change it, update it, and make it more current. So
It's hard. I mean, I'm glad that they could look at it as an opportunity.
It's just disappointing.
It was devastating.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
I mean, if you're
disappointing.
not there, I mean, it doesn't take very long for.
It was a toilet valve that malfunctioned,
That's a lot of water.
and they were gone. And so the ceilings were on the floor, and they lost everything.
You know, from the desk of Dennis, my father-in-law, he would sit here and go, well, shame on you for leaving from vacation and not shutting the water off to your house. Like, he'll call us when we're going on vacation and be like, did you shut the water off to the house? Because of that.
Who thinks about that, though, really?
Dennis. My father-in-law. If you want to, if he to this day will call and be like, oh, you're coming down, don't forget, shut the water off. Does somebody have a key to your house? Like, he'll go through the checklist of like, you know,
Good old Denny.
yeah, Denny is right there. But I will tell you, it saved us once. We came home, I turned the water on, and boom, like there was a leak.
It's in the amount of water that comes out in just that short period of time. Right time you realize you've got a leak, and the time you
3
turn
minutes.
it off.
It was like,
yeah.
I don't know how many gallons in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's the thing. Like, I can't remember what it is in a half-inch line, though. The gallons per minute is pretty healthy. So, and that's per minute. So,
well, if you want to do an experiment on your own, ladies and gentlemen, you can just fill a 5-gallon bucket of water and pour it on your deck and see that it will take up your whole deck.
yeah.
I don't care what size your deck, if your deck is under 40 by 40, it will fill the whole deck. I mean, that's a lot of water. And you can imagine these people that you knew, Chris, they're not home. It's hundreds of thousands of gallons.
Yeah. Yep. And because of our winters, I mean, pipes bursting
Yeah.
happens. That happens quite often.
There's movement,
Yeah.
right? Like,
There's a product that you can put on, like, where your water main is. I can't remember what it's. I want to call it a water dog, but I can't remember if that's exactly the name of it. But it will sense if water's running at a pace that it shouldn't be
right?
over a period of time, and will shut the water down in your, like, at the main.
Interesting.
At the main.
Is that outside or inside?
It's inside.
Interesting.
So
Water
it's
dog.
actually like inside of like where your main shutoff would be.
Got it. What? Yeah, it would have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let me just see if I can Google it. Oh, yeah. Well, this is a water leak sensor that it's kind of like a wire that goes, in your pipe. And then nowadays, I'm looking at now. It's a smart sensor, so it goes to your phone,
Right.
but it will it'll shut your water down.
Yeah.
It'll shut it down. It looks like, I could show you a picture. It kind of looks like something you attach around your pipe. See it?
Yep.
Oh,
And there's a valve behind this box that you have to cut into the pipe.
Right.
And the valve is inserted in there, and it's battery operated. And if the flow is abnormal for like a very short amount of time, by the way, it's like a minute.
Mm-hmm.
You could set it to a minute. You could set it to however, but it'll shut the water off. I didn't look at the positive and negative reviews, but when we come back, I guess we'll wrap it up with water damage. This is Measure Twice.
my luck would be the batteries would be dead.
Welcome back to Measure Twice. I'm Rob Perugini, along with Chris Kramer from C. Kramer Interiors and Joel Graber from Graber Customer Modeling. This is the show that helps you envision your home's potential, and you're listening to us on Machinist News Talk 95.3 MNC. We are brought to you in part by the good people at Leatherman Supply. Everything windows, doors, cabinets, and countertops, with the showroom now open in Granger right next to C. Kramer Interiors. And Hoosier Hardwood Floors, Michiana's trusted and valued experts on hardwood floors. You could visit them at HoosierHardwoodFloors.com. We started with natural acts of God catastrophe, but water damage is water damage.
Yep.
Right? And Chris was joking, with my luck, the battery would be dead on the sensor. I just wanted to reiterate that they do make sensors. Joel had brought up that you can attach a sensor pretty close to the main that will detect abnormal water flow and shut your water off. So that you don't get quite the damage. You're going to get, like Chris said, look, 3 to 5 gallons will damage stuff.
Yeah.
So you're going to get something, but you just won't, it probably wouldn't be catastrophic damage that water can cause. Water and fire, create damage in mass, right? You know, wind creates damage too, but not like water. You know, that's the precautions you could take. And then we were talking off air about, I'll mention, and I've mentioned this all the time, is the water flood sensor that you can attach to your washing machine and your laundry. You should just have it. They are so inexpensive, so easy to install. Like anybody can install them. It'll protect you because they're not designed to break. They're just, think about the use that they get.
Yeah.
You know, it's inevitable, and that's real water damage. And your laundry nowadays is in a prominent area now.
Yep.
Like it's not like
how many laundry rooms are upstairs?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Floors.
Like, you know, gosh, mine is on the main floor now. Where my old house, it was in the basement, and I had a problem. It really was just going into the sump. It wasn't that big of a deal.
Right.
Chris, you had mentioned though that you had the flood. How was your setup? Tell the audience what your setup was. That's a pretty common setup.
Well, yeah, the hose that from the washing machine that drain the drain.
The drain
pop. I don't know. It just kind of, maybe the pressure, it popped out of the drain, so it was on the floor, draining water all over the floor.
So somebody people are listening in an older
3/4 inch hardwood floor.
3/4 inch hardwood floor that somebody put in.
That's a different story. It's like, is it wise to put hardwood near
water? No. Nope.
Because you're just asking for it, right?
The floor's warped even after it dried out, and so it eventually will be coming out.
Eventually. Hoosier Hardwood Floors loves Chris.
Yeah.
There's like...
No, I'm putting in a brick floor. I want to do a brick floor.
Brick?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Herringbone. Shiplap walls. I've got it all figured out.
You wouldn't be Chris Kramer if you didn't have it all figured out. I mean,
well,
Joel,
except
right?
for like Chris with his own stuff, he has a hard time making a decision.
Yeah, we did have a whole show on that, remember?
This one I've already thought it through.
This room?
Yeah.
We remember.
Shiplap, really?
Yeah.
Well, because there's there's water in there. It's got to be ship-like.
I want it because it's a farmhouse, and that's kind of farm.
Is it?
Yeah.
I can't get past the brick floor. When you say brick floor, do you mean like
it's a veneer? It's a brick veneer that you buy.
You can do a brick floor, but
yeah.
You lose a little.
I was like,
how high do you want to step up?
Yeah, exactly.
That seems a little like a little out there.
No, they make a brick veneer. It's a veneer.
Okay.
It's like a tile, but it's actual brick.
Just, don't hold it against me. When you say stuff, Chris, I take it literally.
How do you do that?
So I was like, what? You're going to have a brick floor? That's, wow. You're going to get a mason in there?
Yep.
So
this is a flooring that looks like brick.
It is
brick.
It is brick.
It's like they cut the face off of brick.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they put it on a mesh.
Right, just like
a tile.
Yeah. Okay.
Wow. But I'm not putting it down.
No?
No. I want it to look professional.
You don't want it to look like a project for its whole life.
And it would.
Yeah. I know when I first did speaking of Dennis, my father-in-law, I did tile somewhere, which came out. He came in. He's like, "Oh, when are you going to finish the tile in the bathroom?" I was like, "It is finished." He was like, "Oh, okay, looks great." And I was like,
as long as they don't say, "That's interesting."
That was his form of interesting. He was just moving on. And then he sat down, we were watching TV, and he's like, when you have a toilet, people see the floor in front of the toilet more than any other floor in your entire house.
No.
So you really have to pay attention to that area. He's like, I'm pretty sure you didn't start there, right? I was like, no, I started in that corner. He's like, next time start in front of the toilet. Make sure that looks good.
That's funny.
That is pretty funny. He's not wrong, though. Right? If you're doing a toilet and you're a DIY person, you probably want to make sure that you have enough caffeine and it's early enough in the project that you have energy.
Yeah.
There. Right? You're a modeler, Joel. You've walked into places and you can tell where the person ran out of steam.
Oh yeah.
Where they kind of started to quit.
I mean, that's how my my original house was. The cabinetry, the guy built it himself. You could tell where he started and where he finished.
Because he kind of lost hope or lost interest.
I
right?
just want to get it done. I just need to get it done.
Just got to get it done. And then
that's the difference, really. If you want to talk about a DIY difference, now there are DIY people that are fantastic.
Yep.
Craftsmen.
Yep.
Right? Latent craftsmen, right? Yep. But there are DIYers. That's not the majority. No, because it can't be.
Right.
Right? There's not 100% talent, right? There's DIY people that have to do it because they have to do it. They can't afford. They just do it, and they're pretty good at it. And then you have the DIYers that are like, I'm going to give this a shot.
Yeah.
And he's sitting at the table right now, speaking into the microphone. And you can tell, where you start to lose hope. Like, this is not going to work. I need to come in and fix it. You could just see it. But
see, now I think I can handle the shiplap, but I know I can't do the floor.
Because you know your level, where your talent levels are, your aptitude level is. And I'm using the word talent. Talent is a real thing. It exists. People, laying tile is a talent.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Laying flooring is a talent. There's a certain amount of talent that.
And you have to have the subfloor properly installed so you don't get cracks and. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's some bit of form, right? And what am I saying? Some bit of procedure that everybody can get right if they do it right. And then there's some part of talent that not everybody can get right.
Right.
Because it's not, even Joel, you wouldn't necessarily tile a whole floor if you didn't have to. You would hire Halsey.
Oh, absolutely. I'd hire Halsey. I mean,
you work with Halsey, but what I'm saying is you're going to hire. But a smaller project, you're probably fine. It's probably okay to do every now and then, right? Thanks for listening. This has been Measure Twice.
Podcasts by Federated Media.